And finally, for today's program, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn about the organization of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mexico.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On February 1, 1960, in Port of Spain, the capital of the island nation of Trinidad and Tobago, construction began on the Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventists. Here you see the hospital's main building as it looked just after it opened. Today, it's a 45-bed hospital that treats around 12,500 patients annually. On February 2 and 3 in 1861, the first meeting of Adventists from across the U.S. state of Minnesota was held in the small town of Pleasant Grove. Church members traveled as far as 100 miles to, as one wrote, take into consideration the wants of the cause in this new state. Plans were laid for concerted outreach across the state, and money was raised to buy a big tent with which later in the year John N. Andrews conducted evangelistic meetings in Minnesota and northern Iowa. And 8 months later, in October 1861, Minnesotan Seventh-day Adventists organized the Minnesota Conference, building on the two-day meeting held 155 years ago this week. And during this week, 86 years ago, the Mexico Union was organized at a nearly week-long meeting, February 2 through 6, in 1926. 6 local missions in the country of Mexico, comprising 29 local churches with 718 members, were separated from what had been called the Aztec Union into a separate union. An American missionary, Daniel A. Parsons, seen here when he was a missionary in England, became the first superintendent of the Mexico Union. Meanwhile, missions in Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, and British Honduras were formed into the Central American Union Mission. Today there are 5 unions in Mexico with some 700,000 church members. That was This Week in Adventist History.